Good morning, everyone. It is good to be together on the final Sunday of 2020. I feel like I should give you all gold stars or certificates for making it through this year that has brought us challenges that none of us would have even anticipated a year ago, I think. So, congratulations for still existing this far into this challenging year. And I'm going to read you a poem that I often read at the end of the year that brings me strength and hope. It's called New Year's Day by Kathleen McTeague. She writes, "The 1st of January is another day dawning. The sun rises as the sun always rises, the earth moving in its rhythms. With or without our calendars to name a certain day as the day of new beginnings, separating the old from the new. So it is, everything is the same, bound into its history as we ourselves are bound. Yet also we stand at a threshold, the new year something truly new, still unformed, leaving a stunning power in our hands. What shall we do with this great gift of time this year? Let us begin by remembering that whatever justice, whatever peace and wholeness might bloom in our world this year, we are the hearts and minds, the hands and feet, the embodiment of the best visions of our people. The new year can be new ground for the seeds of our dreams. So let us take the step forward together onto new ground, planting our dreams well, faithfully, and in joy. Come, let us gather. Come, let us worship together."
Good morning. I'm Bob Davis, a member of the Sunday Services Committee. Welcome to People's Church on this last Sunday of 2020. People's Church is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Here, we value questions and listening as much as we value thoughtful answers. Here, we value many sources of knowledge and inspiration, including science, philosophy, the arts, and writings of major world religions. We welcome you into our congregation, no matter who you love or what your spiritual journey has been. If your life has been turned upside down in 2020, you are welcome, for here you will find solace and guidance towards new beginnings. If your life is better than ever, you are welcome, for here you will find people actively helping others less fortunate. If you are tired, you will find ways to rejuvenate and rest. If you are energized, you will find inspiration to use that energy to make the world a better place. If you are lonely, you are welcome, for here is an opportunity to make new connections and friends. We especially welcome you if this is your first time joining us. Please remain online after the service for a chance to join a small discussion group of 4 to 5 people for 15 minutes. But for the next hour or so, please put down your daily burdens and join us in welcoming a little bit of hope, love, joy, and peace into our lives.
Sing to the
As I light my chalice here today, you are encouraged to type in the chat box where you are lighting your chalice, whether actual or symbolic. Our chalice lighting reading today is A Flame to Light Our Path by Deborah Burrell. Fire consumes and casts a bright light. May our chalice flame consume our regrets for the past, our fears about the future, and our worries about today. May it light for us a path of joy and peace.
As I begin, I have a few announcements. The first is that this evening at 6 at the fire pit behind the church, we're going to have a small fire. You'll see, if you don't remember from last year, that we have some very special paper with which to burn up what we don't want to carry into the new year. So if you'd like to come and do that in person, you're invited to. Please wear a mask and be physically distanced from others. The second reminder is that if you're someone for whom the timing of your charitable contributions makes a difference in your financial life, the end of the calendar year is approaching, so make the choices you need to about your giving. And the final announcement is that it seems like next Sunday is a Sunday that clergy want the Sunday off. And so we will be hosting 3 other congregations with us for worship. The congregation in Brighton, Michigan, Mount Pleasant, and Ann Arbor. So I don't know what it looks like to be hospitable in each of us in our tiny Zoom boxes, but I invite you next week to be extra hospitable to all of our UU siblings who will be joining us.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, rise up, O flame, show thy light glowing, show to us beauty, rise up and shine. Rise up like flame, shine to us beauty, shelter us beauty, vision and joy.
Our first reading today is Burning the Old Year by Naomi Shihab Nye. Letters swallow themselves in seconds. Notes, friends tied to the doorknob, transparent scarlet paper, sizzle like moth wings, marry the air. So much of any year is flammable. Lists of vegetables, partial poems, orange swirling flame of days, so little is a stone. Where there was something and suddenly isn't, an absence shouts, celebrates, leaves a space. I begin again with the smallest numbers. Quick dance, shuffle of losses and leaves. Only the things I didn't do crackle after the blazing dies.
A Purification by Wendell Berry. At start of spring, I open a trench in the ground. I put into it the winter's accumulation of paper. Pages I do not want to read again, useless words, fragments, errors. And I put into it the contents of the outhouse: light of the sun, growth of the ground, finished with one of their journeys. To the sky, to the wind, then to the faithful trees I confess my sins, that I have not been happy enough, considering my good luck, have listened to too much noise, have been inattentive to wonders, have lusted after praise. And then, upon the gathered refuse of mind and body, I close the trench, folding shut again the dark, the deathless earth. Beneath that seal, the old escapes into the new.
And now we will ritually burn or bury the old year, at least the parts of it that we want to burn or bury. So reflect on this year. It has been momentous. The COVID-19 pandemic that has changed how we do almost everything. The presidential election, impeachment, the killing of George Floyd and too many others, and the protests and changes that followed. The wildfires in Australia and the continued impacts of climate change. And these are just some of the global and national events of this year. This, for many of us, has been a year of too much because of the pandemic. That could be too much isolation, too much togetherness with the people in your immediate household, too much overwhelm if you became someone who had to do their job in a whole new way, or whose childcare evaporated, or whose children now learn from home. Maybe too much time if you're someone's whose obligations and commitments disappeared as everything was closed and canceled. Maybe you've spent much more time alone than you ever thought possible. And too much grief as the deaths and other losses of this year mounted. Perhaps too much rage as our country failed to collectively act in each other's best interest and take hard, necessary steps to keep each other safe. It has been too much in all sorts of ways. And that's just the pandemic too much. Of course, there are the losses and griefs of every year, made more complicated by the realities that have been this year since March. The deaths, the relationships and jobs that came to an end, the hopes unrealized. All of it harder because for most of this year, it was not safe to gather, to support one another with hugs and conversation and companionable silence, the way we did before, without ever noticing or thinking about how lucky we were to not have to be worried about one another's breath. This is not to say there wasn't also some joy this year. I know we found that too. I don't want to ignore that. And we'll get more to that later. So if we were together in the flesh right now, I would be handing paper to you, these little slips of paper, along with pens and pencils, and encouraging you to write down or draw on it what you don't want to carry with you into this year. And then we would burn it up and watch the spectacular flames of this magician's paper. We can't do that now, though there will be a small fire in our fire pit tonight if you want to come and do that then. But instead, we modify this ritual for this year, like we have modified nearly everything we do in all parts of our life, including church. A year ago, I never would have imagined that I would be sitting here in an empty sanctuary, an empty commons, talking to you all through my laptop. So think about what you want to leave behind as the clocks turn from 2020 to 2021. And create a ritual to mark this for yourself. Perhaps burning is the right metaphor for you, or burying, like in the Wendell Berry poem. You could also draw or write on a tray of sand or in a garden bed or in the snow and smooth it away. You could use a washable marker to write on a piece of paper and then dip that paper in water and watch the ink float away. Or something else. Find the metaphor or ritual that speaks to you in this moment. Perhaps you have your supplies nearby and ready to go, or perhaps you will spend a few days thinking about this and take a moment for ritual on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day itself. Do what is meaningful to you. The thing about rituals is that by themselves, they don't make change. We know that by burning something or burying something, it doesn't make our life measurably different in the seconds after that. But they matter. And they matter because there is something about taking the time and finding the right metaphor and setting the intention that makes change easier to manage. It gives you an experience in your body of telling yourself, I'm burning that up, I'm letting it go, I'm burying it, I'm watching it dissolve in water. And that helps make things more real. It doesn't in themselves change things, but it helps give us some of the power and commitment and energy that we need to make a change in our life. So I'm going to use a bit of our fancy flash paper, and I have a table with candles behind me that you can't yet see, and I will burn some paper. As I do that, I invite you to think of what you might be wanting to let go and release as the calendar turns this winter. And you can say that quietly in your heart, or also, because all of you are muted, you could yell it at the top of your lungs and no one else would hear. So create this ritual the most meaningful way you can, given our limitations. I wish you strength as you create a ritual, perhaps, or as you lean into the commitments that these rituals represent. People are generous people, and that is in so many ways. A few days ago, we pulled off a thing that I have to admit I had doubts about along the way, which was a Christmas Eve service of 7 combined Unitarian Universalist congregations. And I heard from some of you, at least, that it mattered and it worked emotionally in ways that I don't think any of us could really anticipate before. So I sat in this space that evening crying to see our musicians who recreated Silent Night, Peace, Peace, to see those of you who figured out some for the first time how to record video of yourselves so you could be part of that candle lighting ritual, and our intrepid technology folks and musicians who contributed in ways that weren't always even seen to make that service happen. We were the only, well, one other church had a music staff person who contributed, but a lot of the behind the scenes work was really done by People's Church staff and volunteers. And so I just want to thank those of you publicly, like Savannah and Laura McClellan, who helped make it work, as well as all of our musicians. Because I had doubts, I have to say, about how this would come together, and it exceeded all of my hopes. So thank you all for your participation, for your presence, for trusting us as we try these new things in these strange days. So your generosity, your flexibility, your willingness to learn a new way to do things makes a difference. So I invite you to continue to be the generous people that you are and support the work of People's Church with your time, your talent, and your money. The offering will now be received.
The offering music is Solace by Scott Joplin.
Please join me in reciting our words of thanks. From the countless gifts we each have been given, gifts of life and love and sustenance, we bring these small portions to share in the works of love which none of us can accomplish alone.
We come from the fire, living in the fire. Go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water. Go back to the water, turn the world around. We come from the mountain, living on the mountain. Go back to the mountain, turn the world around. Whoa, so is life. Ah, so is life. Whoa, so is life. Ah, so is life. Do you know who I am? Do I know who you are? See we one another clearly. Do we know who we are? Do you know who I am? Do I know who I am? See one another clearly. Do you know who you are? See know who I am and another clearly. See one another clearly. Do you know who we are? Whoa, so is life abatiwa. So is life. Whoa, so is life abatiwa. So is life. Water make the river, river wash the mountain. Fire make the sunlight turn the world around. Heart is of the river, body is the mountain. Spirit is the sunlight, turn the world around. We are of the Spirit, truly of the Spirit. Only can the Spirit turn the world around. Whoa, so is life abatiwa. So is life. Whoa, so is life abatiwa. So is life. Whoa, so is life abatiwa. So is life. Whoa, so is life abatiwa. So is life.
Our next reading is New Year's by Dana Joya. Let other mornings honor the miraculous. Eternity has festivals enough. This is the feast of our mortality, the most mundane and human holiday. On other days, we misinterpret time, pretending that we live the present moment. But can this blur, this smudgy in between, this tiny fissure where the future dips into the past, this fly speck we call now, be true habitat? The present is the leaky palm of water that we skim from the swift, silent river slipping by. The new year always brings us what we want, simply by bringing us along. To see a calendar with every day uncrossed, a field of snow without a single footprint.
Our next reading is Relentless by Sean Parker Dennison. They serve as the minister at the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Ashland, Oregon. They write, at the beginning of the year, I went to my local interfaith clergy meeting. The person in charge of hosting had asked us to come prepared to discuss a simple practice. What word would we claim for the new year? The person to my left volunteered to go first. That meant I would be last. It didn't matter to me because the practice was familiar to me and I'd chosen a word a few days earlier and made a vision board for the year. But as we went around the circle, I began to get nervous. The first colleague chose hope. The next colleague chose compassion. The third chose self-care. The fourth told a long story that ended with her selecting the word angel, peace, devotion, honor. By the time we got to me, I was squirming and considering quickly choosing a different word. But even though that felt less risky, it felt dishonest too. So when it was my turn, I blurted, my word for the year is relentless. The room went silent and then filled with nervous laughter. I mean, the world seems to be getting meaner. Ministry is asking more of me and my family. I guess I chose relentless because I need it. I don't want to give up on the world, on our community, on myself, on us. The silence continued. And then one of my retired colleagues smiled and asked loudly, "Can I borrow that? I want to change my answer from kind to relentlessly kind." One by one, my colleagues agreed, and suddenly the interfaith clergy serving one small town had agreed. For the year, we would commit ourselves to relentless hope, relentless compassion, relentless self-care, relentless peace, relentless devotion, and relentless honor. It seems like it will be a good year. And somewhere, if we are lucky, a relentless angel is watching over us all. So now is a time that I invite you to set an intention for the year to come. Perhaps you will be like the clergy in the small town in that poem and pick a word to guide your year. Perhaps you'll want to begin a new practice or commit to continuing something you discovered this past year that gave you strength or joy or hope. Right now, if we were in person, we'd be passing along our aisles baskets of rocks. And I would ask each of you to take one. I like the symbolism of rocks. These small objects formed in prehistory, still here, that will continue long after us. They remind me of the profound scale of time, which can be really helpful when I start worrying about things that I probably won't even remember a year from now. So whether you have a stone nearby or not, I invite you into a time of meditation. Ponder hopes for 2021, the year to come. What might you be called to do to help your hope be realized in the year to come? Now, I invite you to give attention to something nearby that has existed longer than you have. Perhaps that's a rock, a family heirloom, Perhaps you live in an old house, or maybe you just look out the window and notice the sky or the earth. You're invited to move your body to find the right object or get the right view right now. Really notice this elder, this thing that has been around longer than you have. Remember that this elder has seen the new year come and go over and over and over again, and it is still here. What in your life and in your world do you want to be as strong and persistent and long lasting and perhaps relentless as this elder? What might you be called to do with your heart and mind and hands to realize your intention for the year to come? As we end our time of meditation, I invite you to continue this conversation even within your own heart. And I invite you to find a way to make a ritual for whatever intention you have that you're bringing into this new year. If you were thinking about a stone, maybe keep that in a special place. If a word is your commitment for the new year, perhaps you write it on a slip of paper and stick it in your wallet wrapped around your ID, or write it on your bathroom mirror in lipstick. Take a picture of whatever elder you've just meditated with and display it. Or make it the home screen on your cell phone if you know how to do that, so you will see it many times a day, or the background on your computer. Find a way, if it's meaningful for you, to keep close to some reminders of your intentions for the year. And speaking of ways we ritually mark the turning of the year, our choir has prepared the traditional song of New Year's for us, or a traditional song.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot
I've given you a lot of optional homework today, and I hope that you engage with it if it's meaningful. And if it's not, I hope you find other ways to mark the turning of this season and greet the returning of the light and the new page on the calendar with joy and hope. So go in peace and go in love, dear ones.